Welcome, brave adventurers and curious explorers, to our nightly rendezvous with wonder. As the clock ticks softly and the night deepens, we're about to step through a portal into a world of endless possibilities. Let your body sink into the comfort of your bed. Feel the gentle weight of your eyelids and allow your mind to float free like a balloon rising into a starry sky. Our tale for tonight, the Whispering Willow, is the wind that will carry that balloon to amazing new heights. Margaret Thorne had always been a practical woman. At 78 years old, she prided herself on her no-nonsense approach to life, a trait that had served her well through the years as a biology professor at the local university. Widowed for the past decade, she lived alone in the old Victorian house she and her late husband Thomas had lovingly restored over their 50 years of marriage. The house sat on the outskirts of the small town of Millbrook, surrounded by an acre of land that gradually gave way to dense woodland. At the edge of the property stood an ancient willow tree, its sweeping branches creating a natural sanctuary that had always been Margaret's favorite spot for quiet contemplation. On a crisp autumn morning, Margaret made her way down the worn path to the willow, leaning heavily on her cane. The arthritis in her hands had worsened over the past year, making it difficult to tend to her beloved garden. As she approached the tree, a gust of wind rustled through its leaves, creating a sound that seemed almost like a whisper. "Good morning, old friend," Margaret said softly, easing herself onto the wooden bench beneath the willow's canopy. She often spoke to the tree, finding comfort in the one-sided conversations. Today, however, something felt different. As the breeze picked up again, Margaret could have sworn she heard a response. "Good morning, Margaret," came a low, creaking voice that seemed to emanate from the very bark of the tree. Margaret blinked in surprise, wondering if her mind was finally starting to go. She had always scoffed at her colleagues, who delved into more esoteric areas of study, preferring the solid ground of empirical evidence. Yet here she was, apparently hearing a tree speak. I beg your pardon," she stammered, feeling foolish for responding to what must surely be a figment of her imagination. The leaves rustled again, and this time there was no mistaking the words that followed. "After all these years, you finally heard me," the willow said, its voice carrying the weight of centuries. "I've been waiting for this moment, Margaret. There's so much I want to share with you." Margaret sat in stunned silence for a moment, her rational mind warring with the evidence of her senses. Finally, her curiosity won out. "How is this possible?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The willow's branches swayed gently, as if shrugging. "The world is full of mysteries, Margaret. You humans have only scratched the surface of understanding. We trees have been communicating with each other for millennia, but it's rare for one of us to speak directly to a human. It requires a special kind of connection, one that we've built over your lifetime." As Margaret absorbed this information, she felt a lifetime of scientific certainty begin to crumble. "But why now?" she asked. "Why me?" "You're at a crossroads, Margaret," the willow replied. "You've lived a life dedicated to understanding the natural world, but there's so much more to learn. I've watched you grow from a curious child to a respected scientist, and now I believe you're ready to see beyond the veil of what you think you know." Over the next few hours, Margaret listened in rapt attention as the willow shared secrets of the natural world that had eluded human understanding. It spoke of the vast network of roots and fungi that connected forests across continents, allowing trees to share resources and information. It described the slow but constant communication between plants, the warning systems that alerted entire ecosystems to incoming threats, and the complex relationships between flora and fauna that went far beyond what any textbook had ever taught. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the yard, Margaret realized she had spent the entire day beneath the willow's branches. Her mind was reeling from the revelations, but she felt more alive than she had in years. "This is incredible," she said, struggling to find words adequate to express her awe. "But why have you chosen to share this with me now?" The willow was silent for a moment before responding. "Margaret, you've dedicated your life to understanding and protecting the natural world. But your time is growing short, and there's still so much work to be done. I'm offering you a chance to continue your life's work in a way you never imagined possible." Margaret's heart quickened. "What do you mean?" "There's a way," the willow said slowly, "for your consciousness to join with mine, to become part of the vast network of life that spans the globe. You would retain your memories, your knowledge, but you would also gain access to the collective wisdom of the earth itself." The proposition was staggering. But Margaret's scientific mind raced with questions, but there was also a part of her that felt an inexplicable rightness to the offer. "Would I die?" she asked hesitantly. "In a sense," the willow replied, "your physical body would cease to be, but your essence would live on, merged with the natural world. You would continue to learn, to grow, to influence the world around you in ways you can't yet imagine." Margaret fell silent, contemplating the enormity of the decision before her. She thought of her life, of the loneliness she'd felt since Thomas's passing, of the frustration as her aging body betrayed her passionate mind. Then she thought of the incredible knowledge she'd gained in just one day of truly communicating with the willow. "How long do I have to decide?" she asked finally. "Time moves differently for us," the willow said. "But for you, I'd say you have until the next full moon. Come to me then, with your decision." As Margaret made her way back to the house, her mind was a whirl with possibilities. Over the next few weeks, she found herself spending more and more time beneath the willow's branches, learning about the hidden world that had been right in front of her all along. She learned of the complex mathematics behind the growth patterns of leaves and branches, of the intricate chemical signals plants use to communicate, and of the profound impact human activity had on the delicate balance of nature. The willow shared stories of centuries past, of droughts and floods, of forest fires and regrowth, of the slow but inexorable march of time. As the full moon approached, Margaret found herself torn. The scientist in her was skeptical, demanding proof and questioning the very nature of consciousness. But there was another part of her, a part that had always felt a deep connection to the natural world, that yearned to accept the willow's offer. On the night of the full moon, Margaret made her way down to the willow one last time. She had spent the day putting her affairs in order, leaving detailed instructions for the disposition of her estate and her research materials. As she approached the tree, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. "Have you made your decision?" the willow asked, its leaves shimmering in the moonlight. Margaret took a deep breath. "Yes," she said, her voice steady. "I accept your offer. I want to continue learning, to be part of something greater than myself. I'm ready." The willow's branches seemed to reach out to her, enveloping her in a gentle embrace. "Close your eyes, Margaret," it said softly, "and open your mind to the world around you." As Margaret closed her eyes, she felt a warmth spread through her body. It started in her feet, as if she were putting down roots into the soil. The sensation moved up through her legs, her torso, her arms, until it reached the top of her head. For a moment, she felt as if she were expanding, her consciousness stretching out in all directions. And then, suddenly, she could feel everything, the slow, steady rhythm of sap flowing through the willow's trunk. The intricate network of roots spreading out beneath the soil, connecting with other trees, with fungi, with countless microorganisms. She could sense the other plants in her garden, the insects buzzing around them, the birds nesting in nearby branches. Margaret's consciousness expanded further, reaching out to the surrounding forest. She could feel the life force of every tree, every bush, every blade of grass. She became aware of the complex web of relationships between all living things, the delicate balance that kept the ecosystem thriving. As her awareness continued to grow, Margaret realized she could sense far beyond the confines of Millbrook. Her consciousness touched forests thousands of miles away, desert cacti surviving in harsh conditions, seaweeds swaying in ocean currents. She became aware of the Earth's rotation, the pull of the moon, the energy of the sun nourishing all life. Time seemed to lose all meaning. But Margaret experienced the slow growth of seedlings into mighty trees, the gradual erosion of mountains, the formation of river valleys. She witnessed the ebb and flow of animal populations, the subtle shifts in climate over centuries, the gradual evolution of species. Through it all, Margaret retained her sense of self, her memories, her passion for knowledge. But now, instead of being limited by human lifespan and physical constraints, she had access to a vast reservoir of information and experience. She could observe, learn, and even influence the natural world in ways she had never imagined possible. Years passed, then decades, then centuries. Margaret watched as Millbrook grew and changed, as her old house was renovated by new families, as the world faced environmental challenges and slowly, painfully, learned to live in better harmony with nature. Through it all, she remained a quiet guardian, sharing her knowledge with those who learned to listen. Sometimes, on quiet nights when the moon was full, visitors to the old willow tree would swear they could hear whispers on the wind. If they listened closely, they might catch fragments of ancient wisdom, insights into the interconnectedness of all living things, or gentle warnings about the fragility of the natural world. And if they were very lucky, they might hear the faint echo of laughter, the joy of a scientist who had discovered that there was always more to learn, always new wonders to explore, in the vast, intricate tapestry of life on Earth. As Margaret's consciousness melded with the willow and the broader network of nature, she found that her influence extended far beyond what she could have achieved in her human lifetime. Her scientific knowledge, combined with the ancient wisdom of the natural world, allowed her to subtly guide the course of environmental research and conservation efforts. When a young botanist from the local university came to study the old-growth forest near Millbrook, Margaret gently directed her attention to previously undiscovered plant interactions. The resulting paper revolutionized the field of plant communication and led to new approaches in sustainable agriculture. When climate change threatened to disrupt the delicate balance of ecosystems around the world, Margaret's vast network of connections allowed her to help forests and other biomes adapt more quickly than they might have otherwise. She couldn't prevent all the damage, but her influence helped mitigate some of the worst effects. As decades turned to centuries, Margaret watched humanity's relationship with nature evolve. There were dark times when it seemed that human short-sightedness might irreparably damage the planet. But there were also moments of profound hope, as new generations embraced a more symbiotic relationship with the natural world. Through it all, Margaret continued to learn and grow. She marveled at the resilience of life, the intricate dance of evolution, and the profound mysteries that still lay hidden in the fabric of the universe. Her scientific mind remained ever curious, always seeking to understand more, to push the boundaries of knowledge. One spring day, nearly 300 years after Margaret had first merged with the willow, a young girl named Zara wandered into the old garden. The house had long since been turned into a museum dedicated to the history of Millbrook and its surrounding ecosystems. Zara was a quiet, thoughtful child with a passion for science that reminded Margaret of herself at that age. As Zara sat beneath the willow's branches, absently running her fingers through the grass, Margaret felt a familiar stirring. For the first time in many years, she felt the urge to speak directly to a human again. "Hello, Zara," she whispered, her voice rustling through the leaves. The girl looked up, startled but not afraid. "Hello?" she replied hesitantly. "Who's there?" "I'm Margaret," the willow said, "and I have so much to share with you." As Zara listened with wide-eyed wonder, Margaret began to tell her story. She spoke of the marvels of the natural world, of the importance of scientific inquiry, and of the responsibility each person had to care for the planet. She shared insights gained over centuries of observation and communion with nature. By the time the sun began to set, Zara's mind was alight with new ideas and possibilities. As she reluctantly prepared to leave, Margaret gave her one final piece of advice. "Remember, Zara," she said, "the world is full of wonders waiting to be discovered. Never stop asking questions. Never stop seeking knowledge. And always listen to the whispers of nature. You might be surprised by what you learn." As Zara walked away, her step lighter and her eyes shining with purpose, Margaret felt a sense of profound satisfaction. She had passed on her legacy of curiosity and reverence for the natural world to a new generation. And as the stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, Margaret settled back into the vast network of life, content in the knowledge that her journey of discovery was far from over. There would always be new mysteries to unravel, new wonders to explore, in the endless, beautiful complexity of the living world.